My last several videos, I've been working on the shop a lot. I recently built these cabinets, miter station, so I'm learning with my new shop that I have sort of a problem. It's not a big problem, it's just an annoying problem. It's something I need to take care of. It's not inside the shop though, it's outside the shop. So recently we had a snowstorm, and when the snow piles up on the roof, it all sloughs off and lands right in front of this door here. But even worse than that is after the snow, we had a ton of rain and then a little bit of warm weather, so it melted all the snow. As it rains and as the snow melts, it drips off the roof. So it's kind of annoying. So my goal to solve this problem is to build a cover over the door over the light. It'll be about as wide as the door, and it'll overhang about as far as this concrete pad here. So every time I come into the shop, I clench my shoulders and try to protect my neck, and I run into the door as fast as I can. Also, when going outside, I prep myself in front of the door, I clench my shoulders, open the door, and I run out as fast as I can, just so I don't get any of those drips down my back. You know, you've been there. You get that one water drop, lands right between the shirt, whoo, it gets cold. So like most of my projects, I took to Fusion 360 and I designed this massive corbel. So this is 4 feet tall by about 3.5 feet long. So this should cover that concrete pad perfectly. I wanted to give kind of an elegant, clean look. So this is the design I came up with. And I wanted the curve to kind of match the light that's there, the gooseneck light, if you will. So after a bunch of renditions and a lot of time with Fusion, this is what I came up with. Personally, I think it looks really good. The top here is an 18-degree pitch, which is the same as my roof, and I think it'll work pretty well. As you can see, I've already prepped this one, but I have not prepped this one. So let's get to work on this guy. So first I like to hit any part that comes off the plasma table with a wire wheel, just to get any of the big dross and slag off of it and kind of clean up any of the edges. Then I like to go over the whole thing with this surface conditioning tool. This thing works pretty good. It gets it real clean and ready for paint or any other condition you're gonna go for. After that, I move on to the metal brake. I don't know if you can really see it on camera, but that surface conditioning tool works really well at getting this cleaned up. Now it doesn't get all the mill scale off per se. I mean, it probably could if I worked at it for a while, but it just gets it kind of scratched and kind of cleaned up pretty well. So you can maybe see here, I put a bunch of relief cuts in it so that it makes it really easy to brake. This is 10 gauge metal, and the brake here is only rated for, I think, 16 gauge. So without the relief cuts, there's no way I'd be able to do this. Gotta make sure my orientation is correct. I don't wanna mess this up. I found this brake on Marketplace, and I got a pretty good deal on it. I bought a bunch of things from the guy, but I gotta say, this thing has seen a lot. It definitely needs some TLC. Maybe there'll be a rebuild video on this later. We'll see. It'll work just fine for this project. I don't know if you can see from the angle, but here's exactly what I'm talking about. This side is bent in more than this side, which means this piece of angle iron is bent. Now I think that's an easy fix, but we'll get there later. All right, now that we got that broke, I will just go through real quick and make sure everything is square and bent just right. And now that I got that, we'll move over to the welder. I just recently picked up this little fab table from Harbor Freight. It's a little bit small, but so far it's been pretty cool. I really like the clamping system that comes with it. Hopefully someday I can upgrade to something bigger and better, but for now, for the price, this will work just fine. This is my first time welding in about 4 months. And if you look real close, there's a telltale sign of that. There's cobwebs in here, there's sawdust in here. It's pretty gross, so I need to get this cleaned up. All right, as far as welding goes on this thing, I'm not gonna do a whole lot. I'm just gonna basically add a little bit of rigidity back into this since I had to make all those relief cuts. I'll just weld the ends and weld a few little beads down the seams here where I cut. This is my first time welding in this new shop of mine. I'm pretty stoked for this. I think there'll be a lot of this to come. All right, we got the first one welded up. Now I'm gonna get to the second one. All right, the last thing we're gonna do with these before paint is clean up the welds and clean up any spatter that might have got on them. All right, now that I got these guys cleaned up and looking real fresh, I'm gonna throw some paint on these. Yeah, I probably should powder coat these being that they're gonna live outside, but I'm gonna throw a heavy coat of primer on, good coat of top coat. I think they'll be just fine. We will find out. If I have to powder coat them later, I'm gonna make this thing totally removable, so I could just do it then. So for primer, I'm using an automotive self-etching primer. I've used a ton of this stuff in the past. I really, really like it. The only bummer about painting right now is it's about 28 degrees outside, so I have to do it inside. I have the fireplace cranked up right now. It's nice and toasty in here. Hopefully it dries nice and fast. Also, with all that being said, I do have the door open and I will have some fans going to create somewhat of a draw in here. Even though I got the fireplace going. It's kind of an oxymoron, but gotta do what you gotta do. I think I just figured out why I like this paint so much. It's my color. It's the green. I love this color and it's pretty close. All right, while that dries, I'm gonna go eat some lunch. Hopefully when I get back, ready for the top coat. All right, I got a full belly and some dry paint. Now it's time to start the top coat. So for this, I went with a satin black. I figure it would match the light that's out there the best and it wouldn't be too glossy and stand out too much. Although they're huge, they're gonna stand out, but you know what I mean. All right, I finally got these all finished up. They are looking really, really good. I can't wait to get them hung up on the side of the shop. I think it's gonna be a sweet little addition. Hopefully, we can get this all finished up tomorrow. Should be pretty fast tomorrow, should be. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. All right, well, coming in here this morning, I noticed these don't look great. They don't look bad, they don't look great. Check it out. I don't know if you can see it on camera. They kind of have this like almost blotchy look to the paint. I mean, it's totally dry. It's not that bad. It's just kind of disappointing. I don't know. I'm gonna run it. We'll put them up anyways. I think it's fine. I think maybe the paint was too cold. It's about the only thing I could think of. I think the next step is I'm gonna start working on the perlins for this. For that, let's go rummage through what I have. I have this 1.5 inch, and I also have a little piece of 1 inch. I think what I'm gonna do is go for this 1.5 inch. I think it'll be obviously a lot stronger, but I think more importantly, it'll look better. Those being so big, this will kind of tie into that. I think the 1 inch, I don't know, I don't think it would look that good. All right, so before I get these cut, I have to explain kind of what's going on here. I've been going back and forth on whether it would be better to pre-assemble everything and then install it, or install the corbels by themselves, then install the perlins, so on. I think ultimately, because I'm doing this one by myself, it would be best to pre-assemble it. Then I can use my tractor with my forks, put it up into place, bolted into the wall. So I went back and forth a bunch of times measuring outside. It's kind of tricky to get it lined up just right because of the way the siding works, the corrugation on the siding. But I think I got it figured out. Hopefully it works to where everything lines up to where it lands on the big beams next to the door. All right, so I'm gonna get these cut down to 45.5 inches and then we'll go from there. So I should note that I do have a bandsaw for cuts like this, but I don't have everything set up for it yet. It should only be 3 cuts, so it'll be fast, easy. We'll get it done. Well, I just totally screwed up. So I cut these two at 45.5, like I said, and I knew I wasn't gonna have enough with this piece, so I have this little piece left over. So I go back in the little room to get another piece that I thought was in there. Well, lo and behold, it was 2 pieces stacked on top of each other that don't equal 1.5 inch square. So I'm gonna resort to my little 1 inch square for the top part. I actually think in the long run, this is gonna work better because I have to bolt it up into the corner of that corbel. You know, it's not gonna really match. It's kind of a problem. Hopefully it kind of blends itself in because it'll be up in the top corner. I don't know, we'll see. I'm a little bummed though, it kind of sucks. To go to town would be like a 3-hour round trip. I'm not gonna deal with that. So let's cut this to 45.5 and keep moving forward. Okay, so I've been standing here trying to go through every scenario in my head to get this to work. I think ultimately, the best way to do this is to go back on what I said, pre-install these on the building, and then work from there. So I'm gonna get a ladder and everything set up outside, then we'll move outside and get these installed.
The lights went off. Is that normal? Is that fine?
No.
That's what I was thinking.
Oh, I got a drip right in the ear. And that's why we're building this. All right, so we have to take a pause from the main project we're working on because I ran the screw directly through the Romex wire there that goes to the lights. I mean, if I would have went a quarter of an inch above it or below it, I would not have hit that at all. So I have to address that first, and then we can get back to our project. All right, crisis averted. As you can see, the lights are back on. That was kind of a pain in the butt, but we got it fixed. Okay, so the corbels are hung. They look pretty good. I'm not like super thrilled about them yet. Maybe it'll get better when the roof is on. We'll see. So I'm gonna keep going on these perlins. My measurements worked out just right outside, so I'm gonna drill some holes 1 inch in, right in the center. That way we can attach them to the corbels outside. All right, I just took one of these outside to make sure everything lines up. Everything lines up just fine. So I'm going to clean these up and get them ready for paint. All right, I got my little paint booth set up here. I got the fans on, this door here open, and unfortunately, all I have is a primer left. So I'm gonna lay this down and then I'll go get the paint. We'll go figure they didn't have the same paint that I had, but I did get this one. It's still a satin black, should be the same. Hopefully it's the same. The good thing about this one is it says it dries in 25 minutes or less. Just enough time for me to eat lunch. Well, this paint might be my new favorite paint. It's literally been 25 minutes. It is completely dry. No tackiness, nothing. All right, time to get these guys installed. Well, it's been a total day of screw ups. I didn't get the right size bolts for these first two perlins. So I'm gonna throw in this 1 inch, and I went to test fit it, and it was a tad too long. So I had to shave off the ends a little bit, and now hopefully it goes a lot better. All right, well, so far, this one's going really well. Okay, unfortunately, I'm gonna head back to the store. I'm gonna grab the right size bolt, and we'll be back. All right, round two. Hopefully this goes a lot better this time. Hey, first try, perfect. I wish. Well, I forgot to turn the camera on when I put this last purlin up. So now you get the pleasure of just watching me tighten it up into place. The only issue I have with the whole thing, hopefully you can see it on the camera, is I should have designed it to where this last purlin is covered up. I should have had this curve up and then cut up. I don't think it really looks that bad. I just wish I would have seen that ahead of time. I'm still new to all of this designing and building side of things. So it's things like that that I don't really see yet. But hey, gotta learn, gotta do it to learn, and it's fun. I don't think it looks that bad. All right, last thing to do here before putting the roofing on is I'm going to come along and just tighten up these bolts going into the shop. All right, that looks good. Super solid, ready for roofing. All right, I thought I'd try to give a little bit better look at what I was talking about because I really don't like it. It's right here. Can you see how the 1.5 inch square tubing just totally hangs out there and is exposed? Kind of sucks. But I think I have an idea. I think I have a way to cover it that'll match the rest of the shop. It'll match this trim piece here and this trim piece here. Hopefully it works. So now, time to go grab some roofing. And for that, we come to the boneyard here. All of this stuff was left on the property when we bought the place. I'm almost certain there's a couple panels in there that were left over or extras maybe from the roofing job on the shop. So I'm gonna pull those out and hopefully they work. But first, I'm gonna go get some gloves because I think it's about 30 degrees outside right now. I know that metal is gonna be mighty cold. All right, that's much better. Now let's get to digging. A lot of this stuff is literally frozen together. I was thinking I was able to use one of these pieces, cut it in half, and that was it. Unfortunately, they're a little bent up, so I have to grab 2, maybe 3 pieces. Let's start with 2, take them in the shop and get them prepped. All right, I don't know if you can see it from that angle, but this bottom half of both these sheets, I have them stacked one on top of the other, is like totally bent up. There's dings and dents all over the place. But this top half is perfectly fine. So that's what we're gonna use. So I have my little chicken scratch notes here and I got my nibbler, I think they're called. So I'm gonna cut this down to length and then I'll explain my idea for covering that square tubing. Amazon box to the rescue. I think that tool is actually called a shear. Is it nibbler? Shears, metal cutting shears. I knew nibbler was wrong. All right, so like I said, I have these stacked, so I'm gonna attempt to just cut these together. I believe it's like 28 gauge. This thing's rated for 14 gauge, so no, should be fine. I think I'm fighting against the workbench. Totally am. All right, well, 2 at a time didn't work so well. So I went to 1 and it went pretty well. I wouldn't say it was great, but it's cut. wore gloves for that. All right, I'm gonna do my best here at explaining my idea for covering that square tubing. It will obviously make sense if it works when I install it. So I have two goals here. One is obviously to cover the square tubing. Two is to match the ribs on the existing roof line. So I counted, I need 5 ribs on top of that roof. So that's the easy part. The hard part is I'm going to try to create trim on the side of those corbels to cover up that square tubing. Plus, I think it'll match really good with the rest of the shop. The trim on the side of the shop is, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches. I'm only gonna make this 2.5 inches. So what I'm thinking is, past the last rib, I'm gonna bend down and create the trim look out of this piece. Then on this side, I'll do the same thing. So to do this, I need to trim this down a little bit on either side, and then I'm gonna try to take this to the brake and bend it on the brake over there. This one's gonna be significantly easier, I hope. So I'm gonna do this one first to make sure it'll work. I'm gonna cut this now, and then we'll head to the brake. Dang, I think that might work. I think it worked. Let's go test it and see. I know it's not the best angle, but this is just a test fit. All right, well, I absolutely nailed it. That looks perfect. There's a huge problem here though. That roofing material is not the same as the roofing material in the shop. It's the siding that's on the shed in the back next to where I got this material from. Now you really can't see it if you're anywhere on the property, except there's one spot where I will always see it, and it's from the kitchen table inside the house. If you look out, you can see it clear as day. Actually, let me show you. Oh, can you see it? If you look right here, the ribs don't line up just right. I mean, they're close. Dang it. But that's okay. I'm going for it anyways. Like I said, the only spot you can see it is from the kitchen table or the front door. Other than that, I think this looks killer. I think the trim piece is definitely the way to go. Okay, so now I'm realizing something else. Since the roof panels are not the same, I measured off of the existing roof panels. So I have to bring that other piece out here and measure off of that to get it to work right. Boy, hopefully I didn't screw it up by cutting that piece just now. Well, it's a darn good thing I thought of that, because as you can see, that won't work. It doesn't cover the side here. It lands just on the edge. So I'm gonna cut a third piece, and then I'll make the third piece work. I'll just overlap them more, which actually really works better because there's screw holes in this stuff. So as the more they overlap, the less dripping through the screw holes that are already there will happen. All right, so real quickly, I went ahead and bent up this third panel. This one turned out pretty good. Pretty happy with it. I think all together, these are gonna look sweet. I know it's getting a little dark out here, although it doesn't really show it on camera yet, but I'm gonna try to get this done tonight. By tonight, I mean about 3:40. It's almost 4 o'clock. It gets dark really early around here. I maybe put a few too many screws in there, but hey, better more than not enough. So that's it for tonight. I have a few more things to do in the morning. I just need to kind of tidy up, clean it up a little bit, fix some of the edges, and get it looking flawless. Well, I thought this video would be ending about now, but unfortunately it's not. And that is because I don't really like the roof. If you remember earlier when I hung this up, I said, I don't really like it. Well, it's still not growing on me. It's been 2 days now that it's been up. I waited, I didn't do it yesterday just because I wanted to see if it would grow on me and get a little bit better. It's not. So I really, really like the roof itself. I like the corbels, they look great. I think the light looks great under it. I just don't think it stands out enough. I don't think it's its own unit. I think it looks like I'm trying to make it part of the roof. That's not my goal. My goal is for it to be its own unit, to be closer to the light and really stand out as kind of an artistic piece above the door. So with that, we're gonna lower it. And here's my plan to do that. I'm gonna grab my little tractor with the forks. I'm gonna wrap the forks with moving blankets. I'm gonna put a stop block on the forks, put the forks up under the roof, take the lag bolts out, lower it down, and we'll go from there. Well, that ended up being a lot of work, but I think it was well worth every bit of it. I think it looks so much better. Should look even better once I throw the rest of the roofing on and get that little trim to match the rest of the shop. So I'm gonna do that real quick, and then this one will be finished. Well, that turned out to be a way bigger project than I anticipated. Just moving it was a total pain. I ended up having to completely remove the roof, remove one of the perlins to get to the lags going into the shop. I had to pull some paneling off on the interior of the shop, add some 2x4s to the structure of the shop because one of the screws was missing the post. So I had to get the screw to grab onto something, but I think it was well worth it. I'm super happy with the way the trim worked out. you can see it's looking good. It's really laying flat now. Really, really happy with that. I love the way the light is now inset into the roof. I think it looks so much better that way. I like how it's kind of encasing the door, framing the door, if you will. It's kind of its own art piece now. It's really a substantial unit by itself now. I'm much happier with that. All right, we'll throw in a few beauty shots, and that's about it for this one. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.